Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to patch 8.11 breakdown. So this is a big one. I've heard a few talks about this patch and there should be a lot of changes to marksman. I haven't read the patch yet, but as far as I know there should be a lot of changes to marksman, items, especially essence reavers. So we'll have to look out for that, but let's just jump all the way down to the champion. So there's two champions. So we have Pike the Blood Harbor Ripper coming up. So I haven't made a video about him, but I think he looks to be a very interesting champion. What I'm really looking forward to seeing is whether or not he can clear through the jungle, because if he's able to clear through the jungle, I could see him become a good jungler. He has the potential to be a very good assassin. The thing is just that he doesn't get any more health, so he's not very good in the late game, I could imagine, at least, because just a few crit shots from an AD carry would probably hurt him a lot. But we'll have to wait and see, and if he's good at clearing through the jungle, then I could imagine that he'll probably go there instead of being that support, which Riot at least thinks he'll be. I'm having a hard time seeing him as a support, at least, or at least as a traditional support that stays in lane and doesn't roam around. So Anivia, Q cooldown decreased at earlier ranks, Q damage ratio increased. What I like about Anivia is that she's very good in the late game, and right now she doesn't bring a lot to the table because of her not being very good at fighting early on. Like, you want to have mid lane priority. That's the whole idea of the current meta. I can see I need to fix my microphone. But just that the whole idea of the current meta is that you need to have mid lane control. You want to have priority in the mid lane so that you can shove in, and then you want to also be able to. Sorry, I was playing around with all my stuff yesterday, so a lot of my stuff is not put up correctly. Anyways, you want to have mid lane control, you want to have mid lane priority, and you want to have someone down the bottom side to have the potential to also have some good team fights. And Anivia, she doesn't really bring that mid lane priority before level 6. So I think that giving her more power on her Q is the way to go, because then you have a little bit more fighting power while not giving her too much early game prowess, because she is still that late game mid laner. Graves, a base attack damage decreased, R cooldown decreased at earlier ranks. Isn't that increased? They've increased the cooldown. Yeah, that's a so instead of R cooldown decreased, they've increased the cooldown. So I think that one of the biggest problems with Graves is that he's able to fight with pretty much every jungler in the current meta. And I like that you take away his base attack damage, because I don't see his Q and his R as being the biggest problems. I do think that it is his base attack damage paired up with his passive. So I think that tuning the AD down is the way to go. I also like that they put the R cooldown on 2 minutes, because I think that basically as a skirmish jungler you shouldn't be allowed to have your ult up too often, and well, now with that being 2 minutes, you definitely can't have your ult up too often. Kha'Zix, R cooldown decreased at later ranks, but stealth duration decreased. Evolved R grants additional casts, and stealth duration no longer grants stealth or movement speed in brush. Yeah. He hasn't exactly been a huge priority as of lately. Has fallen down quite a lot to the likes of a Graves or Trundle, even an Olaf from time to time. I don't see this as being exactly the way to bring him back. I think it's more about the meta that doesn't suit him. So I don't think that these changes will be very big for him. It does make it a little bit more streamlined to to have a difference between normal stealth and evolved stealth, because now you do get that .75 duration changes coming in, so that you are in stealth for a longer period of time when you are evolved. I like the changes. I don't think that it's going to bring him back as a priority pick. Kindred. Mark respawn time decreased. First mark spawns earlier. Rift Scuttle Assist now correctly collect marks. Kindred has also risen in popularity quite a bit, and I like the idea of trying to give her some power so that she can come back and fight against the likes of Graves or Trundle. I think this is actually a very delicate way of going around it, because if you give her emphasis on fighting earlier through her marks, then Kindreds will obviously fight earlier, because if they can get that extra help, just become stronger by using that extra time to fight, then they'll obviously do it. So I think these changes are good. I think it might put her up a bit in terms of priority, so that she's at least top 3 in the jungle now, I would imagine. LeBlanc can now queue up casts of W and RW in either order. Interesting. Lee Sin. Energy restore on passive increased. Q, W, and E now apply cooldown reduction for the duration of their reactivation time, sorry. Could make him a little bit more stronger here in early game. Like, you have these early game junglers already come in from Graves and Kindred, so I think that getting a little bit more energy makes him stronger. I'll be watching out for Lee Sin to see how he fares in the meta, because this might just give him a little bit push to, well, at least make a return against the likes of Kindred or Graves. Not necessarily against a Trundle, I would imagine. Rakan, Q base heal decreased, E base shield decreased. I think that Rakan definitely has a little bit of everything, and a little bit too much of everything. I think that with Kindred, sorry, by the way, I think that with Kindred, the thing is that, as they say, he has too much hard engage, and he also brings too much sustain. So I think that taking down his sustain is the way to go, because obviously his identity is in his hard engage. I don't think they necessarily toned it down too much. I think the shield is definitely good. I don't know about the heal. I've never seen the heal as being that big of a problem. I've more seen the shield as being like the big game changer, because that's the one that can really change the tides in fights, not the heal. And the heal just is a little bit, too much sustain, which I think is fine. I can understand why you want to tone down the shield, however. It's not like it's been toned down a lot. It's only 10 health. Talia, you're probably just going to read this one. Okay, so look at her base stats. Movement speed toned up, and health toned up. Makes her better at fighting earlier on. Passive rock surfing gives her more up and more movement speed. Q, however, no longer deals area of effect damage. Minions no longer take reduced damage from additional rocks. Leah no longer gains movement speed when on work ground. Casting Q on work ground no longer throws mana. 1 on work ground. Q cost is reduced to 1 mana. Okay. That is interesting. Like, I think a lot of the identity around Talia has been that she's able to wave clear very well and shove very well. Now with her threaded volley no longer dealing area effect damage and just basically dealing area effect damage, she's not as good as shoving anymore. I like the idea about it only costing 1 mana, and I love that they've toned the cooldown down. But I'm going to be very, very of seeing whether or not she'll actually be able to clear in the lane anymore, because without the AoE damage, there really isn't a lot to her Q anymore in terms of what it can do for her to shove in. So I think that taking down the cooldown is good. I don't think it's going to be her primary, or well, it is going to be a primary wave clear tool, but I don't think it's going to be something that'll really push her over the edge. And therefore, I understand why you also put down the cooldown on seismic shove, and you do the same for, or well, you tone up the, so you tone down the damage from Unraveled Earth, and Reaper's Wall has been lowered in cooldown. I think you should have at least kept the damage from Unraveled Earth, because she needs that now for her AoE. I can see why they want to take away all of that AoE damage from her. I just don't think that this is the right way to go, because now she has literally no wave clear. She's going to fall so hard in priority. This is literally butchered Talia, I think, because all of her were around wave clearing, and now without that ability, what does she really have left? She can roam, yes, but her wall duration has been lowered, and she's not even going to be able to wave clear. She's not going to be able to shove in, gain that priority, as has been her primary focus in every game. I don't like these changes at all. Ergot collision radius decreased, base attack speed increased, passive damage to monsters increased early. I no longer roots Ergot while he's grinding a champion to death. Fine changes, max damage to monsters. So you can be more of a jungle bully now with those changes. I think that is good that he isn't rooted either while grinding a victim to his death. I don't think that was a necessary thing at all. Especially considering how fluid that guy is. You want to be able to move and catch your opponent all the time, because you need to be in the face of your opponent, so your opponents, and if you can't do that if you're rooted, well, then you're just going to be falling behind the fight and not be present at all. Victor, Q discharge damage increased at later ranks, R damage increased. I love Victor. I think that Victor could be perfect in the meta. The thing is just that he's not very good at fighting as much early on as some of the likes of Swain or Syndra. Sorry about that. So starting at Victor, I think that he could be very good in the meta, but he's just not as good as the other picks that currently dominate the meta. That is the Swain, the LeBlanc, to some extent Syndra as well. Where they are just better at fighting early on. I think that Victor has the potential to push in as well, but now with these changes it makes him stronger early on so that he can actually fight, and I like that about him. I think that could definitely turn the tides for Victor and push him up in terms of what you want here in the meta, or well, which mages you want. Xin Xiao, base attack damage growth decreased, E slow decreased. Yes, thank you. I think that he's just been such a pain in the ass for a lot of junglers recently. I think that I like that Xin Xiao is back. I don't like that he's so dominant, and I think that these changes are definitely going to help, especially him not having as much damage, and for him to not slow as hard. I think it's good. Zyra, E-root duration increased. Yes. So the current supports are like the Kama Morgana, sometimes Tom Kench, Braum as well. I think that putting Zyra up there, at least making it so that she can root for a longer time, could push her up, because she's a very big bully. And now with these root durations, well, with her root duration being increased, I think she might have the potential to become more of a bully and more of someone you'd want in lane. Because right now you don't really want her because of her being so squishy. Because the mid laner is in a meta where the mid laner is forced to roam a lot, and where the AD carry just wants to kill and get a lot of items. So her being so squishy can't be lowered in priority because of her now having the possibility to root for a long time. Marksman based that adjusts. Okay, I'll come back to this once I've looked at the items I also expect. So, conversation for the match sheet changes last patch. Helping them a little bit. Okay, yeah. Okay, new items. Let's start at the new items. Storm Racer for upfront burst and lots of kiting. So that's a new item. If you haven't attacked in the last 3 seconds, getting down with attack speed, your next basic attack will critical strike for 160% damage, +1 per 1.5 critical strike chance, max 200%, and grant 10% movement speed for 1.75 seconds. Okay. Interesting item. I think that could be a good item on stuff like illusion. Perhaps even a Wayne. There's some attack speed in there and it builds from a little of AD too, so I think something like that could have it work. They also mentioned Jin. I think Jin could also be good, especially because of the movement speed. And the movement speed also comes in for Wayne and Lucian, who wants to just kite and follow people for as long as possible. Infinity Edge has been updated. I don't like the new icon. No. Alright, so they moved the critical strike chance and they moved the bonus crit damage. Now put doubles your critical strike chance and 50% of critical strike damage and convert it to true damage. Okay, so basically this is more of a late game item now. And basically makes it so that you're very dependent on you having your seal items. So I think that Infinity Edge will not be the first item built anymore. Most likely be something like, it'll probably be a seal item of some form that'll be the first item built. Like I could imagine perhaps a rapid fire cannon or phantom dance or even a rune dance, depending on who you're playing, could be the first item. Essence Reaver, now a different build path, no longer critical strike chance, no longer funds mana, not as much at least. After you cast your ultimate, your next basic attack within 10 seconds grants Essence Flare for 8 seconds, granting 30% attack speed and causing basic attacks to refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldowns. Okay, so there's a 30-second cooldown on that, but I still think that this is a good item on someone like Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa, I've seen a video by Philol, I think, about this change, and for Kai'Sa it means that whenever she uses ultimate to jump behind people, she's going to be in dueling range anyways, so her Icathian Rain, if I remember correctly, will be off cooldown very often. For someone like Lucian, this will also mean that his Q will be off cooldown very often. Wayne is the same stuff, so I think that this could be a first item for the Wayne, Kai'Sa, Lucian, to some extent Sivir too, because it would, for Sivir, it would allow her to use her Ricochet and Boomerang Blade much more often, especially when she powers up her team. So I think that the Sivir could actually jump up in priority by this. Especially because this is also making it a better late game, and Sivir is all about the late game. Last Whisper, bonus armor penetration shifted to total armor penetration and decreased. Yeah, basically going back to the old Last Whisper, I think that's good. They're focusing so much more on the late game for AD carries. And now giving Last Whisper total armor penetration is more late game focused. And also makes it easier for AD carries to deal with tanks without having too much crit and therefore being too strong. Lord Dominic's just paste down damage and toned up for 35 total. Jesus Christ. I think this is fine. I think this is bloody fine. 10% target total armor. 35 total armor pen. This is going to be such a ridiculous item in the late game. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. I could imagine like once you have 1 or 2 items, Last Whisper will come in and then that'll just sit there for you to have like your 4th or 5th item. And then you'd go for your 4th item, and then you'd actually buy up either the Immortal Reminder or the Lord Dominus Regards. Like, this is not even going to be the item you'll go for. Why would you go for Immortal Reminder unless you're playing against Vladimir or another healing champion? You'd never go for that. 35% total armor pen is just so much greater than 25. And like, this is the ultimate tank slayer. You don't even have this anymore, but it's still a bloody total tank slayer. All you get here is just you get grievous wounds. That's all. You have to sacrifice 10% total armor pen. Alright. A lot of changes here. Oh, they're really butchering all of the critical strike chances. I'll try this up. They're making it so that it's going to be harder for you to get that Phantom Dash early on, so that you can't get that. So you can't get the power spikes of critical strike early on. I just don't think that. Oh, Cloak of Agility is gone, by the way. No, I just don't think that they necessarily needed to do all of this. I think that you could put this to perhaps 800 gold instead of 2900, and then 2800 gold instead. So, alongside you getting that Essence Reaver, alongside you basically going for a lot of early game in Lucian, Vayne, and Kai'Sa, Blade of the Ruined King, also something that Kai'Sa would love to get, Lucian would love to get, Vayne would love to get. Now that's cheaper, so they can feel safe to go for that after getting that Essence Reaver, and it will also buff up the passive of the Essence Reaver, making it so that the Essence Reaver's passive can be used more because of its scaling with attack speed, making your non-ultimate cooldowns reduced, and that is by auto-attacking. So more attack speed, yay, Blade of the Ruined King. Morphin Morpheus, magic resist increased, base shield value increased, shield no longer scales with bonus magic resist. Yeah, so it's basically being used by a lot of AD carries in Morphin Morpheus whenever a QSS isn't really the go-to item. So I like that they've made these changes overall just to make it feel safer and better for AD carries to go for it, because I remember at one point you had like a Korean AD carry, I think it was Ruler. You go for the Locket of Diamond Solary instead, and that shouldn't be the case when you have the Morphin Morpheus. So making it a little bit more streamlined and better to build that item feels good. Oh, they're just making all these changes to these AD carries. So up with the Guardian Angel cost, and Warmer feels okay. Not going to be like a a build that you'll always go for as an AD carry. Enhanced minions are highly resistant to magic and physical damage rather than entirely immune to magic damage alone. Okay, I can see Band of Command still being in the meta because of these changes here. Just making it harder for champions overall to take it down while still being able to take down champions. I think that those changes are actually very good, because if the thing is that the Band of Command minions shouldn't be what determines the lane, and they are definitely doing that right now in the top side. Like when you're putting it up against all of the AP top laners, the Cho'Gath. Without the feast from Cho'Gath, he just isn't able to deal with that Band of Command. So I think that making it so that they just take 7% damage reduction instead is the right way to go. Shurilia's Reverie, movement speed decreased, cost increased, base mana region added, active cooldown increased. So it's been going very much into the mid lane instead. And now with mana region coming in, it can still be a mid lane item. Vladimir could still definitely buy that. There's still AP on it. It's just a more costly item now. You don't get as much movement speed, which will hurt someone like Vladimir, but you still have the active cooldown. It's just on a bigger CD, so I don't think it's gonna hurt him that much at all. Runic Echoes now builds out of Phoenix Codex rather than Lost Chapter. Ability power increased. Thank you. Last patch they changed it was the movement speed. They changed the Runic Echoes and gave it cooldown reduction. This is a little bit of a better change to compensate for the movement speed, I feel like, but it's never going to compensate entirely for the movement speed. Movement speed is just so much more important on AP junglers than it is on AD junglers, because they need to have movement speed to be able to gank more efficiently and actually use their abilities, as they can't rely on their auto attacks. But at least now they have a little bit more ability power to work with. Fleet footwork no longer gives additional healing from critical strikes. Now it gives less healing on ranged. Jesus. They've really butchered the fleet footwork. Now there's less sustain for fleet footwork, but it's also like it's just overall weaker. I don't see this as being like necessarily the go-to rune anymore, unless you really want to have a lot of sustain. Domination, Hail of Blades. Gain 50 to 100% attack speed for the first 3 attacks made against enemy champions. If more than 1.5 seconds elapses between attacks, this effect will end. Hail of Blaze allows you to temporarily exceed the attack speed limit 5 seconds out of cooldown. So that's a good item for a Trundle Graves Kindred. They can then trade more efficiently, and they can get more auto attacks off faster whenever ganking. I think it's a fine keystone. I'll have to wait and see how it turns out though. Ultimate Hunter. Your ultimate gains 5% reduced cooldown plus an additional 2% per bounty hunter stack. Earn a bounty hunter stack the first time you get a takedown on each enemy champion. So that's 10. Yeah, my math isn't the quickest. So basically you get 15% reduced cooldown on your ultimate. Can be good on, again, a Graves, a Kindred, Trundle, Olaf. Just these skirmish heavy junglers, I think could be good on. Sorcery, Nimbus Cloak. Battle mages feel good about a rune that will help them get or stay in the fight when they push their go button. Shortly after casting your ultimate, gain 100% movement speed, decaying over the next 2.5 seconds. For the duration of the movement speed increase, you can pass through units. Cooldown 60 seconds. Unlike other runes, Nimbus Cloak's cooldown is affected by cooldown duration. And then they've changed the ultimate hunter. Okay, so that's like a thing that'll help someone like Vladimir, Cassiopeia to have a better fight, because Phase Rush has just been feeling so lackluster right now. Getting this instead helps you a lot. Having movement speed without having to sacrifice a keystone to get the Phase Rush. Yeah, okay. Like these changes, I think the mini dimensionalize is just too strong. Definitely my favorite rune by far. And I think that you get too much control by having it around the first cannon minion wave, so pushing it a little bit back in the game means that it isn't as good for lane anymore, but still is a lane rune. So that's the items. Let's go back to the 8 carry marksman based at adjustments. So basically they've just toned down armor and AD on them a lot. And health has been toned up. And attack damage growth has also been turned up. So basically it's all just to adjust to the fact that they think that AD carries, they need to be more late game focused, and I can understand that. I like these changes. I want to look at Lucian, I want to look at Kai'Sa, and I want to look at Wayne. So looking at here, right, Kai'Sa. Attack damage growth is still big. It hasn't really been toned that much down. It's one of the higher ranges as far as I can see in terms of the other AD carries. Still has a lot of health and health growth. So if Kai'Sa is still going to be super strong with the Essence Reaver, Lucian is going to be able. He has one of the biggest starting ADs compared to all the other AD carries. And his health is fairly strong as well to the other AD carries, especially like this is the higher end of all the AD carry health changes. So Lucian's also going to be something that we'll have to look out for. And then Wayne doesn't pack a lot of health at all. Damn, that's a big change. So she gets a lot of health coming into the first few items, but she doesn't have a lot to begin with. At least she has a big AD damage growth and attack damage to begin with, so she can utilize that Essence Reaver very much. Fairly same goes for Sai if you want to, but it's not necessarily the one that I see using it too much. Turret durability. The inhibitor and Nexus turret's health decreased, inhibitor turret health regen increased, Nexus and inhibitor turrets can only regain health up to the next third. Okay, so makes it easier for you to end games because turrets are divided into 3 halves and they can only regain it back. They don't have as much health anymore. So I think I really like these changes. Makes it easier for you to end the game, but they also regain health faster, so you need to be faster in terms of doing so, but at least now you don't have to start over all the time. And turret gold is now granted locally rather than globally. This is also to try and hit on the AD carries, making them less strong, because if a tower is taken up in the top side, an AD carry is not going to be able to get the gold that is given in that top side. Well, not necessarily as much, but I think that this might just give the AD carries the want to try and lane swap instead, because if you can swap, that's 400 gold. If you can give 400 gold over to AD carry, that's a decent amount of gold to begin with, so you might as well just see some lane swaps coming in early on. especially also with someone like Kai'Sa, Lucian, and Wayne going on priority. The other AD carries, such as the Tristana, the Ezreal, or even the Sire or Sivir, they will not want to go up directly against them in a lane. So I could imagine that we might see some lane swaps coming in. Jungle, Baron Nashor, attack speed decreased, base corruption damage decreased, special attacks no longer apply corruption. So you got a lot of changes in the last patch. I think you got a lot of health changes, and obviously with health changes comes an increased fight, and well, that's just too much damage on him, I could imagine. I haven't played that much in the last patch, I have to imagine. Sorry, I have to admit, but I think that it's fine, especially considering that he has more health. So I think that this is fine. This is fine. And corruption, just taking down the damage, making it so that he's still a challenge, but not a pushover. Skullcrab, respawn time increased, shine duration increased. Yes. And then experience rewards here. No change to wolves, changes to Crocs in late game, and late game. Alright, I agree with these changes. I think Skullcrab, one of my favorite objectives in the game. I love being able to take the Skullcrab, so I think that having this is good. I love that. And then now with that being with the shine duration having increased, I think that it's going to be popping up more in priority, especially with the respawn time also being increased, making it so that it's harder for you to get it as often, especially also considering the last patch, the changes I got the Skullcrab got in the last patch, where it was changed so that it gives more experience. So I like these changes, and I think that this is good to just have a little bit more in late game, and not necessarily not late game, but level 7, and not necessarily in the early game, to revert all of the changes in the last game. So in the last patch, ARAM last hit. Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay, well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this patch breakdown. Sorry for the interruption mid-patch breakdown. But I hope you guys live, and well, remember you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, Medium, LinkedIn. You can find me pretty much everywhere. So definitely follow me if you want to see more of what I'm doing. Right now I'm in the middle of a big exam period, so I'm not as active as I would love to be. But you can still follow me. I'll still post from time to time, and I will see you very soon.